morning. Welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. I hope you're doing well today. So today I have an interesting subject. Well, I think it's interesting. Nobody else may find it interesting, but I find it interesting because how our life is just playing out real time through a matrix of distortion. And what I mean by this is that I have always, ever since I can remember, I've been a fan of George Michael. And I mean like an over-the-top fan. Like my girlfriend and I spent the night on Specs record, their sidewalk. We spent the night there, didn't get tickets to the concert. And my mom and dad let me do it. I was surprised they let me do it. But they knew how much I really liked his music. And so I have seen him in other timelines, like since he's passed away. And one of the times that I talked to George Michael after he passed away was, I think that he's in the fifth dimensional space. And I go, well, I guess because Theo is in the fifth dimensional space, that I can mirror the fifth dimensional space through me because we're the same being. Like, Theo is in the fifth dimensional space, and it's like if you see 1111 all the time, you've got the two dots in the middle, which is the midway area. In my older videos, they talk about it. It's either Edgar Cayce or the Urantia books refer to it as the midway area, which is the place in the in-between space, in between Earth and its antiparticle self. Okay, so when you see an image of Jesus standing over a bed and looking at a child, you can look at that as a different thing. Those are not two individuals. That is the mirroring of Christ's consciousness. This is the consciousness stream. This is anchored in bloodlines, folks, okay? It's codes, and it's anchored in bloodlines. Like, for an example, what we think is swastika as an evil thing, if you look at the swastika, it's showing you that there's 4 ways to get off the planet: north, south, east, and the west gate. So, I mean, what would be a better way to hide a map than to turn it into a symbol and make it evil, right? See, you can't make this stuff up, folks. Okay, so I've seen George Michael after he's passed away in the fifth dimensional space, and he's performing. He's still performing. He was performing in an arena, and in this arena, he was singing a cappella, and he let one of the audience members come up and sing with him, and it was a guy, and he was absolutely ecstatic, and I was communicating with him telepathically, and he told me that he was so happy. He was so happy that he finally get to do what he wants. So happy. So anyway, I want to weave a story in to how I feel like I'm connected to George Michael. And the reason that I feel connected to him is because, first of all, I can see him in the fifth dimensional space. And the other thing is that I've always had an affinity for him. And I mean, even here, I still have this. This is my autograph. This is a genuine autograph picture of George Michael. These are my 2 concert stubs. This is when he first started his fan club in Oakland, California. Oh no, it was in Sherman Oaks, excuse me. He said, "Although I have little time to say thank you to each and every one of you who writes, your letters and thoughts are greatly appreciated. Thank you for your continued support." But yeah, he signed it. Lots of love. And you see, he has his cross earring in. He always wore a cross earring. And I'm going to show you this other picture because this is interesting. If you notice, his mark, right, opposite of mine. Right here's mine. Here's his. His was over here. But he didn't get this mark until later. This is an initiation, folks, okay? And I'm going to explain to you what these marks mean. They're spiritual. So I'm weaving a story about George Michael and Princess Diana and me, and why our dates are marks in our lives carry codes. Most people just stop at the surface and say, oh, it's just a birthday. This is just a headline, a rumor. I mean, Look at this. This is talking about his life, okay? I'm going to show you how the matrix works, folks. Let me show you some of the, let me show you the couple of the articles that's in here with this. Okay, is this truth and fiction here? Let me show you this. I'm just like, man, you can't even make this stuff up. Well, there was another thing in here that just really struck me as odd. That maybe I'll find it later. I don't want to waste too much time. But I mean, there were just little allusions in here, like little articles and things that were just weird. I'm like, what? You know, is this like truth in sight? Okay. So, you know, most people just think it's a rumor, but your entry and your exit dates are very important, folks. Very important. And all the marks that you get on your body along the way. Kid you not. George Michael was born June 27th, 1963. The first connection that I have with that is my oldest son. That's his father's exact same birthday. June 27th, 1963. That was one of the oldest breadcrumbs that I had. And the other thing is he passed away on December 25th, 2016. Okay, December 25th, I love Christmas. Christmas, the whole story of Christmas comes from the North Pole. This is a primordial mother, okay? This is why so many of us love Christmas. We love it. We don't want to hear you guys saying that it's a pagan holiday. This is when Christ Michael's codes are coming in, okay? So the exact birthday and the exact death day are not a coincidence. Christmas Day. I mean, that's the Solar Father Gateway, the celebration of Christ's light reborn after the longest night. Well, let me give you another interesting tidbit. Guess who was born on December 25th? And I've talked that I'm going to do a 28 video on her, but I got to do a 28 video on Trump now, another one, because of stuff that's happened. Yesterday I was in the car and I was coming back from the store and I turned on the radio and it was George Michael. And I looked at the timestamp and the song, and I know he's been sending me songs through the radio lately. And he's been urging me to get his truth out. His truth needs to be told. And so I had reached out on Sup Sobers. This guy, he has a channel on YouTube. His name is Nick, and his channel is called Sup Sobers. And I'd ask him if he would please do one on George Michael, because he always does videos on these types of things. And his channel's fantastic. He does a lot of work, and he's doing a good thing. And he's definitely SSP, I can tell you right now. He's in these other timelines. Okay, so it has to be told. It's time. It's time. Everything is, it's coming time. There's a universal justice sweep that's coming. And I witnessed in the astral space on Friday, last Friday. I mean, it's rippling across the world. And when you see things in the astral realm, that means that they're about to unfold in the 3D realm. So stuff is happening. Okay, so George was a truth bringer. He was a truth bringer, and truth bringers get tagged early. A lot of times before they're even born, because of their bloodlines. You're marked with solar codes. You're marked with lunar codes. You're marked with different influences, okay? Okay, so in 1982, I'm going to give you a timeline because I went through the timeline with him. 1982 is the formation of Wham, and it just skyrocketed, right? It's almost like George Michael is Michael, right? He is. He's an angelic. George Michael was an angelic. In 1987, he has his solo time. He had Faith. It was his first album. So 1990, just 3 years later, he's writing Freedom. So it only took him 3 years later to be like, okay, I've had enough of this, right? He was already burnt out. He doesn't even want to do the video. And he's already fighting against his record label. So as soon as he signed that solo career, he knew that he'd made a bad decision. And his life became miserable after that, really. 1990, he refused to appear in the video. And I've watched probably every single interview that he's ever done in his career. And let me tell you, he had a bone to pick with Sony that is bigger than the dog itself. And so he was having to follow the rules of his contract, but he was finding little loopholes because he's smart. So he burned his jacket in the video. He didn't appear in it. So he did the video because he had to make videos. So what he did was he got all his divine feminine friends who were models, women who were models. He absolutely worshiped the divine feminine. And this is why I say that he's an angelic. Okay, so he didn't appear in the video, and he burned his jacket because he was being defiant. He wanted to reject the control of his record label. They were stifling his creativity. So in 1992 started the lawsuit with him versus Sony. And it lasted for 2 years. He put up a good fight, but they were trying to ruin him. He called his contract professional slavery. And of course he lost in court because, you know, no one ever beats him, right? Right. But, you know, he publicly, you know, he made a publicity statement in itself because he was saying, you know what, I've had enough and I'm putting my foot down. So he was defying his record label, and he was defying the machine. He was pulling a Kanye. So in 1998 onward, he had nothing but constant targeting. This is where you get your targeted individuals. So I've been contacted a lot lately by quite a few people that are targeted individuals, and it's getting close to like a dozen at this point, you know. And this is why you get targeted, is when you wake up and you step outside of the matrix. When you have these codes and you wake up and you start to step out of the matrix, this is when you become a target, because you're tagged from your bloodlines. Okay, all right. So he was constantly targeted and harassed. They tried to ruin him. They set him up a couple different times in car wrecks, with planting drugs on him. You know, the whole situation in Roy Rogers Parks, trying to out him as homosexual when he'd already come out. He had already been openly gay, so it wasn't like a secret. And see, this is why I say that there are distortions on Archangel Michael's collective. And this is what they used Archangel Michael's collective to create the false holographic matrix, which is a homosexual overlay. Okay, so George was born in with some distortions right off the bat, or they came in later. And see, this is from tagging and marking and upgrading you and changing you. Okay, all right. So in 2002, he released a song called Shoot the Dog. And if you've never heard it, you got to go back and listen to it, because the first time I ever heard it, I was like, what the hell is this? This doesn't even sound like him. You know, this is not something that he would write. Like, he always wrote from a real soulful place. And obviously this was like, he was being defiant. So, you know, it was letting people know, hey, there's more going on here than what's meeting the eye. So this was like a satire cartoon where he made everybody with these big heads. He made this cartoon of himself and this leather stuff, this bondage wear, and this dog. But, you know, he loved dogs because he's the lupine protector. He comes from these lines. So he always had a lab. He had a yellow lab. And so he was calling out Tony Blair and George Bush about the Gulf War and letting people know what was really going on. And boy, I tell you what, it wasn't long after that things started getting worse for him. But in 2013, he got a head injury, a severe head injury. They tried to kill him. They did something, rigged his car up, and he was driving down the M1 near St. Albans, and his door came open on his car, and he tried to pull his door shut, and his car didn't want to shut, and he fell out, and it almost killed him. They tried to take him out then, and that was in 2013. This is when he got marked for the inversion right here. This is when they marked him. This is his mark. This is my mark. I got mine when I was 3. This is his mark. One of the other girls that's in this group, she got her mark when she was like 11. There's other people that have messaged me, and I'm still trying to get into these conversations with them about their mark. But one of them has a mark. The other one has a mark. And they're all around the eye. Princess Diana, she had a mark on the left side. She had a mole right here above her mouth. Marks are no mistakes, okay? So in 2016, on December 25th, this is when George was given the exit out of the timeline. So after he passed, people learned what kind of person he really was. All of the money that he donated in secrecy, he never let the right hand know what the left hand was doing, right? In giving, right? He was giving from a private place. He donated for years to children's charities, health organizations for AIDS, HIV, cancer, and he even sponsored IVF for a woman that couldn't have children. He would listen. He used to love to watch game shows. He loved to watch TV. He would call in on game shows all the time. I mean, he was really a character. He was so everyday, right? I mean, he loved like the normal shit. And, you know, his mother, he adored his mother. And when she got cancer, and I think that was targeting, that broke him. It broke him. He loved his mother so much, you know. And so he gave in secret, and that's Christ heart behavior. So Princess Diana. So Princess Diana was born July 1st, 1961. And the numbers say that 7-1 is a spiritual awakening into a new beginning. And 1961 reduces to the number 8, which is a sovereignty or an infinity year. Remember, we talked about the figure eights. When you do that with your body, that you can spin your atoms and you can get yourself into a state of bliss that can cause particle implosion, and you can astral travel. This is how you do it. Okay, Diana's mark wasn't a disfiguring facial scar from a crash. She had a mole right here. And this mole, oh, she also had rosacea. And, you know, rosacea shows stress. But this mole that she had over here right above her lip, that's a voice mark. That's a voice mark. That means that she was here on the receiving channel for the Sovereign Mother. And she couldn't be controlled either. She couldn't be controlled. I mean, look at how she was tricked a couple times in interviews, and she said there wasn't room for 3 people in her marriage, right? And then the other time that she said that they were the Eptilians, right? The Eptilians. Right. So I have a bloodline bridge to Diana, and I'll tell you how I'm connected. So my father's side is from the Randolphs. His grandma was a Randolph. The Randolphs tied into Robert the Bruce's mother. Okay, Robert the Bruce's mother. She was married to someone before she married Robert Bruce's father. And this man came from Clan Macduff, Adam Kilkendare. And this was the Macduff clan, which is the oldest clan. I think they're one of the oldest clans there are. And this line came into the Stuart's family. The Stuart family is part of the Macduff clan. The Spencers, they come from the Bruce family, the Stuart family line. It's the same sovereignty web. So even though there's like generations of mixing between hers and mine from Marjorie Bruce, we still carry the maternal codes because we're females. You get it? This is why the Jewish law tracks the mother's line only. You can only be Jewish if your mom is Jewish. It's because the mother carries the cloak of the DNA codes, folks. She carries the cloaks. This is why you have to trace your mom's line back. You just keep tracking your mom's line back, because your mother cloaks the codes for your family. Okay? Diana and I are kin through sovereignty codes. Crown bearer and crown giver. So even though we have generations of mixing, our codes are still here. This is why that the family that she married into, they marry back into my family because they have to get the codes. Kate Middleton, I guarantee if I went back and dug her ancestry apart, she'd be related to me through the maternal line because she's carrying the codes, and they need it so they can hold their form, so they don't stay in the reptilian form. They have to have a certain percentage of the codes to balance them, okay? Otherwise, you go back to your original, you can go into your, you can't hold your form. And if you know, you know, okay? So truth bringers get marked. These marks speak. Look at the pattern, folks. If you've got marks on your face, you need to start doing some work. Find out when it was. Remember, if it wasn't something that happened in your your younger ages that you can remember, hey, I got this mark when I was 16. Or you might need to ask your mom, like, hey, do you remember when I got the scar on my head? Like, I asked my mom. I know I was around 3 years old because I was running with a ballpoint pen. But, I've been marked since I was 3. So George, he had a left eye scar. And this is the feminine receiving channel. Mine is the masculine. So this is the feminine receiving channel. So they tried to invert his feminine channel in 2013. This is when they tried to invert him. Okay. So Diana, she had the left side voice mark right here. A mole above the lip. And then when she was, acrobite, she received the injury to her heart and her lungs, which is her voice of sovereignty. It was targeted. They were trying to shut her up. They didn't want her talking. Okay? And I have the right scar, which is masculine projecting. This is why I have masculine energy in a feminine body. Okay? I mirror these polarities. This is what I do. This is why I have the Trinity Codex. I'm mirroring codes. My mom's line carries the lunar codes. My father's line, the royal lines, carry the solar codes. This is why they have the lion on their crest. It's their solar sovereignty codes. And the Randolphs had 3 rubies on their family shield. And the rubies have to do with your codes. The codes. The one in the middle means the axis mundi. Just like the cross, it's marking north, south, east, west gates. Okay, the rows in the middle, those are primordial mother's codes. That means you had all of them. You came from the beginning, and that you could go through the polar exit gate, that you were from the very beginning. This is what all the symbolism means. It just means they're gates. The cross, the Templar's cross, is saying that, hey, this is the map. You go through the North Pole, the South Pole, the East, or the West Gate. This is how you get off world. They knew. They knew. This is why it's hard to find these old maps. And when you do, you're like, oh, wow, look at that. Look at Antarctica. Look how it looks. Look, it looks like an ice wall. Looks. So, I've been intertwined with George Michael for a long time. I joined his fan club as a teen. I just got a thump on my watch from Theo. I have his autograph and concert tickets. They were dated October 21st, 1988. These are not keepsakes, they're anchors. And so decades later, George is visiting me in my dreams, in my visions and synchronicities. He's dropping songs to me, and exact timestamps. See, these are things like when my brother talks to me, he always comes to me usually around 8 o'clock, which is interesting because, my brother carries the solar codes. He was born on October 18th. He was born in the Lionsgate window. He died August 18th. He left through Lionsgate. My brother and I are 10 days apart in 3 years. 3 years and 10 days. So everything is in code because we're living in a false holographic matrix. The primordial template is always dropping you codes so you can wake up, folks, so you can wake up. Okay, so I want to show you how the matrix drops you codes. Seriously, I've been working on my genealogy for a while because I've been trying to find where I go all the way back to the beginning, because I'm not trying to just find 500 years ago. And my family's got their old bloodlines, so they have rich history. Okay, so this right here is my grandpa's veterans card. And on it, you'll see it has St. Pete on there. Of course, his address is Opelika, because I told you my family's from Miami, right? Okay, so there's things on here. There's things on here. And then look at this. This is where my grandmother was writing letters to do our genealogy. She was doing it in 1976. April 19th, 1976. So this has 3 Thomas Jefferson stamps on it. Jefferson's mother was Jane Randolph. Okay? And a Pioneer Jupiter stamp. So, you know, I come from the Randolph bloodline, and I got a little something in my stomach because, you know, I know that that I'm going back through these bloodlines and I'm reappearing, and I'm pretty sure that I was Jane Randolph, and then or I was another Randolph. There's 2 women that keep showing up in my field, and I'm pretty sure I'm one of them. I'm either the one that wrote this cookbook that was the first American cookbook, and I still very much resonate with that, and I have a copy of that cookbook. I printed it out a long time ago, and I was going to re-digitalize it. I was going to remaster it and put it online, and then I was going to recreate the recipes in my kitchen. I think that that's me. I think I was her in that time stream. So I think that I was Mary Randolph or Jane Randolph. But see, I think her name was Mary Jane Randolph. See, this is what's, you know, this is what gets you tripped up for a while. It takes a while for all the pieces to come in. Okay, but other thing is Jupiter is sovereignty and justice. So my ancestors literally stamped the code on this envelope. Right? We got Thomas Jefferson. This is my mother's line. This is not my father's line. Jefferson is my father's line. This letter was my mother's line. But, you know, and this was my mother's line. My grandfather was at Pearl Harbor the day after the attack, the morning after the attack. He was a firefighter. And he comes from a long, long line of Marine people. Like, they were admirals, captains, you know, all of these high-level naval figures throughout history. And I promised myself I was going to do it. But I'm going to order, there's like a 50 CD set that traces my family back, I don't know to how far, but it's on 50 CDs, and it's at the Library of Congress. So I'm gonna see if I can get a copy on the internet, so I can really just see where they all go back to, because my mom's family on her father's side are a little bit of a mystery. Their last name is Royal, and if you try to look up anything on the surname Royal, it just puts you in with just like the word Royal, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the surname. Where did it come from? So, you know, there's clues all along the way. Like my first restaurant job, my first legal paying job, I worked at the restaurant called the Black Forest, which was a German restaurant. I was 13 years old. So even then, it was hooking me to my lupine ancestry, you know, that comes through my bloodlines, through the German bloodlines. So why do I tell this now? It's because scars don't erase the codes, they prove them. George carried Christ Michael codes. Diana carried sovereign mother codes. I carry primordial mother codes. They were both targeted, and many of you know what that's like. Gang stalking, smearing, accidents. I can't tell you how many accidents I have had. The pressure to go back to sleep. You're not crazy. You're marked because you matter, folks. You're marked because you matter. The justice field is moving. Truth bringers are remembering, folks. The breadcrumbs are starting to line up. You know, it's all here. Birthdays, timestamps, exit gates, songs, scars, things that are happening to you, things that places you're going in your sleep, in your REM sleep. You know, things that's happened throughout your life, they have been dropped to you like breadcrumbs. Like when you awaken, you look back on your whole life through a microscope. You're just like, everything makes sense. Everything. So Mother's cloak comes back over the people. You know, this is the matrix cracking. You know, we are restoring this original timeline, folks, and we have to work with the earth. And so, you know, I want to come back on this next video and talk about this program that I'm doing, and it has to do with reseeding the planet. And I really hope that we can get people to volunteer. It's called the Earth Exchange Project. And I'm creating these Earth Exchange packets to plant all over the world. They're like little capsules. They're not intended to grow. And I've talked about the importance of seeds, of heirloom seeds in the past. And one of the things that I've talked about that's so important with heirloom seeds is that they are restoring the original blueprint because they don't have distortions. So when we plant these original heirloom seeds, we are planting memory, okay? And the allegory that I was given was like, for example, they found these date trees in the desert from the time of Christ. And they found date nuts, and they were able to grow a whole orchard of these date nut palms that were from a 2,000-year-old seed. And so that was what I was given from the allegory, is that something can be dormant for 2,000 years and still grow, that it has codes. And that these codes are part of the coding that goes into the program. Okay? Okay, so along with these, I have to exchange dirt with people from all over the world. And so I am setting up, I have a P.O. box set up to receive the dirt. And it is P.O. Box 7492, Indian Lake Estates, Florida, 33855. And I am looking for people that want to be involved in helping re-establish the original planetary template or recipe as it was intended to be from God. Okay? The way the earth was intended to be from God. And we are going to exchange little envelopes of dirt from all over the world. And I'm to combine them all together in one big container, mix them up, and take a spoonful of dirt from this into a packet, and with a variety of certain seeds that have certain codes, go in this along with several different stones and a piece of shell and different things. I have a whole recipe. And so what we have to do is these have to be sent to different places, sacred sites all over where people are living, where people are traveling to, and they just get buried in the ground with an earth honoring ceremony. And they're given with an offering of honey or with moon water or milk, and reburied. And then they're buried with a honoring, like, you know, the packet goes in the ground, and it's like, we're not selling these, we're giving these packets away because they're given as gifts of the primordial mother. Donations are welcome as reciprocity. I can never get the word right. Reciprocity. They're welcome so we can keep doing the work, because we're going to have to be providing seeds. This is not a for-profit venture. So anybody that wants to be involved in this, if you think that you're going to be doing this to make a buck, don't bother. We're not doing it for that. If you put that on there, then you ruin the whole program. So, you know, we want to ensure that this movement can keep expanding without barriers, and we're going to do it in the spirit of Johnny Appleseed. So with that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to dive more into the Earth Exchange project and how I'm looking for people that want to be involved in this project. And we have to reawaken the planetary nodes, and we can do it together. We are going to activate the grid. We are going to do it. Our work together. We're going to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps. We're going to wake up and say, hey, I know who I am. I know what I'm here for. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We can. So with that, when you come and find me, I'll be here, because we're living the past, present, future, all at the same time. Nothing is a coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence. So it's been 35 minutes. Get outside today. Put your feet in the grass and give thanks to our Heavenly Father and Divine Mother, primordial Mother Earth. Thanks for watching Sacred Ensign. Hope to catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.